He was born into a world where his name did not matter, a world where his dreams were never meant to exist. His name was Cale, a boy with no past and no future. From the moment he opened his eyes, life showed him only one thing: pain. He didn't grow up like other children. There were no games, no laughter, no comfort, only commands. Move faster. Work harder. Don't stop. Every morning, before the sun rose, Cale would wake up in the cold, his body already tired. Before the day even began, he carried heavy loads, bigger than his small body. He worked under the burning sun, until his hands cracked open, until blood mixed with dust. But no one cared, because he was a slave, and slaves are expected to suffer. Sometimes, when he fell from exhaustion, he was punished. Whips cut through the air and struck his back. Pain burned through his body. But Cale never screamed. He learned something very early in life. If you scream, they enjoy your pain. If you stay silent, they lose control. So he stayed silent. At night, when everyone else slept, Cale would lie on the ground, looking at the sky. Stars, so far away, so peaceful. And in those quiet moments, he asked himself one question: why was I born here? There was no answer, only silence. But deep inside, something was growing. Something small, but powerful. A thought: I don't want to live like this forever. That thought became his only hope. While other slaves accepted their fate, Cale refused to accept his. He began to observe everything: the guards, how they moved, how they fought, how they trained. He noticed patterns, weaknesses, mistakes. He didn't just work anymore. He studied. And slowly, something changed. His body didn't just suffer anymore. It adapted. His hands grew stronger. His reflexes improved. His mind became sharper. But he never showed it. To the world, he was still just a slave. Weak, silent, invisible. And that was his greatest strength. Because no one fears what they cannot see. At night, Cale trained. In secret, he picked up broken sticks and used them as weapons. He practiced movements over and over, again and again, until his muscles screamed in pain. But he didn't stop, because pain was his teacher. Years passed. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. And slowly, Cale changed. The boy who once could barely stand became a man. Stronger, faster, smarter. But still, he remained silent, because he knew the world was watching, and he needed to wait. Patience was his weapon now. And one day, the time would come when everything would change. The world saw Cale as nothing, but Cale was becoming something. While others slept, he trained. Night after night, he pushed his limits. His body ached. His muscles screamed. His hands were filled with pain. But he didn't stop, because stopping meant going back to being weak. And Cale had already decided he would never be weak again. He trained in silence. No audience, no applause, no recognition, only the sound of his breathing and the weight of his struggle. He used broken tools to practice his strikes. He lifted heavy stones to build strength. He ran in the darkness to increase his speed. Every movement was intentional. Every second was important, because he understood something that most people never learn. Strength is not built in comfort. It is built in suffering. It is built in pain. It is built in silence. Days passed, then months, then years, and slowly, Cale began to change. His body transformed. His movements became precise. His reaction time became sharp. But more importantly, his mind became stronger. He stopped reacting emotionally. He started thinking strategically. Every situation was an opportunity. Every obstacle was a lesson. and every moment of pain was a step forward. But Kale never revealed his strength, not even once, because he knew, if they discovered the truth, they would destroy him before he was ready. So he stayed quiet, invisible, unnoticed. To everyone else, he was still just a slave. But inside, he was becoming a warrior with purpose, a warrior with patience, a warrior with a plan. And every day, he grew closer to something bigger, something powerful, something inevitable. The day would come when he would no longer hide, when silence would end, when everything would change. But for now, he waited and trained and became stronger than anyone could imagine. Time passed, and the world changed. But Kale remained patient. Every day, he became stronger, not just physically, but mentally. He no longer reacted to pain. He accepted it. He no longer feared punishment. He studied it, because now he understood something deeper. Power is not about strength alone. It is about control. Control over your mind, control over your emotions, control over your fear. And Kale was learning all of it. But something was about to change, something that would test everything he had learned. One day, without warning, Kale disappeared. The slave was gone. No one noticed at first, because to them, he was nothing. But in reality, this was the beginning. Kale left the place where he was born and entered a world far bigger, a world where strength mattered, a world where power decided everything. And for the first time, Kale was no longer the weakest. He was unknown, and that gave him an advantage. Because in this world, unknown means unpredictable, and unpredictable is dangerous. Kale began his journey. He traveled through dangerous lands, faced challenges, fought enemies, survived battles. Each fight made him stronger. Each victory built his confidence. And slowly, people began to notice him. A mysterious warrior, with unmatched discipline. A fighter who never gave up. A man who never feared death. Rumors spread. Stories spread. The warrior who came from nothing. The one who cannot be broken. But Kale didn't seek fame. He didn't seek recognition. He was focused on one thing only: the kingdom, the place where his story began, the place that made him suffer, the place he would return to, not as a slave, but as something else, something far more powerful. And as he moved closer, his past began to call him back, not with fear, but with purpose, because Kale knew this journey was not complete. Something remained unfinished, something that would decide everything. The end was near, and the beginning was about to end. The kingdom had not changed, but Kale had. As he stood at the borders, memories returned, painful memories. The place where he was beaten, where he was broken, where he was treated as nothing. But this time, he was not the same. This time, he stood tall, no fear in his eyes, no hesitation in his steps. He walked forward, into the kingdom that once destroyed him. And now, he was ready to face it. News spread quickly. The warrior has returned. People whispered. Guards became alert. The king was informed. And for the first time in years, he felt something unfamiliar. Fear. He called his advisors, his generals, his guards. What is this warrior? He demanded. But no one had a clear answer. Only rumors. A man who cannot be defeated. A man who survives every battle. A man who is becoming a legend. The king laughed. But his hands were shaking, because deep inside, he knew something was wrong. The kind of wrong that cannot be ignored. Meanwhile, Kale entered the city, and he saw everything. The same system, the same cruelty, the same injustice. Nothing had changed, and that anger started to rise inside him. But he controlled it, because now he understood something important. Anger without control is weakness. So he waited, patiently, silently. The final confrontation was coming, and this time, there would be no escape. Crown the king and the warrior. That night, Kale entered the palace, unstopped, unchallenged, because everyone knew this man was not ordinary. He walked through the halls, toward the throne room, and there, he saw him, the king, sitting on his throne, surrounded by guards. But Kale didn't stop. He walked forward, step by step, until he stood right in front of the king. Silence filled the room. The guards held their breath. The king looked at Kale and said, "Who are you?" Kale looked into his eyes and replied, "I am the result of your cruelty." The room froze, because those words carried weight and truth. The king's expression changed. For the first time, he saw something in Kale, not a slave, not a servant, but a threat. And that realization terrified him. The room was silent, heavy, unbreakable. The king stood from his throne. Slowly, carefully. His voice was cold, but inside, he was not calm. "Do you know where you stand?" the king asked. Kale didn't move, didn't blink. He simply replied, "I stand where you once stood above others." The king's face darkened. "You dare speak like this to your king?" Kale took one step forward, and the guards tightened their grip on their weapons. But no one moved, because everyone could feel it. Something was about to happen, something irreversible. Kale spoke again. "You built your power on fear. You punished the innocent. You destroyed lives. And now, it's your turn." The king laughed, but it wasn't real. It was fear disguised as arrogance. "Kill him," the king ordered. The guards rushed forward. But Kale didn't panic. He had been waiting for this moment. His entire life. One guard attacked. Kale dodged. Another came. Kale blocked. His movements were sharp, precise, efficient. Years of training finally came alive. One by one, the guards fell. Fast, controlled, relentless, until silence returned again. The king stood alone. His protection was gone. His power was gone. For the first time, he was just a man, facing the consequences of his actions. Kale walked toward him. Slowly, the king stepped back. "No, wait." For the first time, the king begged. The same king, who once showed no mercy, was now asking for mercy. Kale stopped, looked at him, and said, "You had power, but no humanity. You had control, but no compassion. Now you have nothing." The king fell to his knees, and in that moment, everything changed. Not just for the king, but for the entire kingdom. Because Kale did not choose revenge. He chose justice. Ere the ending, Kale did not take the throne. He did not rule with fear. Instead, he broke the system. He freed the slaves. He gave power back to the people. And he disappeared into history. But his story did not. Because legends never die. They live in the hearts of those who believe. Ere final moral, a power is not given. Ere it is not inherited. Ere it is earned. But more importantly, a power without justice always leads to downfall.